Hello and welcome to Juicy Scoop. Lots to cover today. I'm going to go through some hot topics. I got a little treat about a new podcast I'm excited about. And then I am going to talk to a woman who worked for Tom Girardi, Erika Jayne's ex. But let's get into what everyone's talking about. Clare and Dale from The Bachelor have broken up. Now, Clare her title was the oldest Bachelorette ever, which was kind of rude. But the girl had been around a long time. She started out at Juan Pablo's season. She supposedly boned him in the Vietnamese Sea on like a group date. So she made waves. Then she did a bunch of Bachelors in Paradises. She also met some guy when they did like an Olympic version. They pick her to do this. And we see all the guys that are going to come. And one of the guys was Matt, okay? And I think he made an appearance or it came out that he was going to do it. And then the quarantine started, and I guess he started to do cameos. And Clare found out, and she's like, he's not here for the right reason. He's already trying to be famous. Kick him off. So they kicked him off, and then they're like, well, actually, let's just make him the Bachelor. So we're going to get into that in a minute. So who's left is this hot, tall guy named Dale. She's 38, 39. He's only 28. So 10-year age difference. They fall in love, hardcore falling in love. She swears up and down that we weren't talking before the show, but she's like canceling group dates and rose ceremonies to like dry hump Dale at the La Quinta Resort and Spa. They get engaged, they go off, and it seems to be working out. We were watching them on Instagram stories. They're doing fun things. So a couple times she'd be like, let me finish, and she'd like hit him, and then they did a toddler jump and like her head hit the ceiling, but it was still kind of funny. It always sounded like other people were watching them do their funny TikToks. And I thought maybe it's working because she's not on Dancing with the Stars because there is a pandemic and there's not a lot of places to go. Maybe this is really going to work. And she'll get her wedding paid for after this. She'll get not pregnant, whatever. Well, it has been announced that they broke up. And Dale was the first person who announced it. And then Clare came out and said, I heard with you. I'm devastated. Now, here's the interesting stuff that I have figured out. I also have had a couple sources write me, anonymous sources. Clare is fucked. Let me tell you why she is. Because Dale, who's only 28 and has only been on one season of The Bachelor, and he came off pretty delightful, he is probably going to go on Bachelor in Paradise. Who knows? He could go on a bunch of these things, okay? He could end up on Dancing with the Stars. He's a hot babe. He was modeling Halloween costumes before this took off. You know, he was a football player, but I don't think he ever like played in an NFL game. So he's got his whole life ahead of him. He can do as many cameos as he wants. Now, Clare, I really don't think they're going to ever have her come back on the Bachelor franchise. She also has to give the ring back. Okay, so she doesn't get to keep that ring. I heard from a source that she and another former Bachelorette, Michelle Money, were going to do a podcast together, and they were all ready to do it. Apparently, that's been pulled. She's a hairdresser. She hasn't worked in a year, and she can't open her salon for who knows how much longer, being that she's in Sacramento, California. It's pretty bad. And she's also was in love with him. But the stories of why they broke up was that they would get in arguments because he would come to Sacramento to stay with her, and they'd stay one night, and then he'd be like, let's get in the car and go to San Diego where all my friends are. So it's one thing to hang out with your boyfriend's friends, and probably in the beginning you act like you're super into it, like, oh my God, they're the greatest, they're like my brothers. And then after a while you're like, dude, enough with the guys hanging out all the time. And they posted that they're at some beautiful house in La Jolla, which I'm sure was like a paid stay or whatever, where the house maybe gave it to them so they could advertise this rental house in La Jolla, California, which is in San Diego. But I think all the friends came to that too. And so I think she was really getting the feeling that he really didn't enjoy being alone with her that much. Now, the other explosive thing is that he said he had a friend in real estate who he knew for a while. Well, the rumor is that real estate girl was someone he was seeing all along. And at one point they were looking at apartments in New York, and somehow someone saw it, or I don't know if it was posted, but Claire then was like, wait, we're never going to be bi-coastal. We're never going to live in New York. Why are you looking at apartments in New York with this supposed friend? And the supposed friend named Eleanor or something has supposedly told her friends she and Dale were more than friends. So he broke up, a lot of cryptic Instagrams before it was official. They're done. And Claire better hope that she can start cutting hair again, get the vaccine, let some people get some highlights. I don't know. I don't think a lot of people think about how screwed her life is. Oh, and also, I think she probably had to give a big portion of her fee as the Bachelorette back to the Bachelor, franchise, because I am not sure what they get paid. I'm sure you guys know. I'm thinking it's between $150,000 and $250,000 for the season, which is significant. But she only did a portion of it, and then they had to get Tayshia, so I'm sure they had to pay Tayshia something. And looking back, I think Tayshia knew she was also in love with her first pick, and who she went home with, which was the drug rehab guy from New York. But I think at that point, she followed the instructions of the producers to play along, act like she was interested in other people. I don't think she was that good of an actress. But we find out later she never slept with anybody but the guy she chose. I think she and Dale had it going on, and I think Dale, his ego would not have been able to take if she played along and possibly made out or had sex with other people. I think he also pushed her to end it early if she really wanted him. And she was so desperate for love and thought he was the greatest person on earth that I think she made a huge mistake. Okay. This cat was super into Claire. And he stayed for like one night when he met Tayshia. And then he said, what's his name? Jason, I think. Right? Jason. He was also a former football player. Kind of like a fun personality. Not the greatest looking guy, but cute. He actually left after Claire left and said, Tayshia, you're great, but I'm actually really into Claire. The rumor is that they're talking now. That he has been comforting her. And I would too. If I was Claire and I was licking my wounds, I'd be like, who was the other guy that was like super pining for me? Let me call him. Now, in this season of the Bachelor, Matt is, winning hearts. He does everything the producers tells him to do. He keeps the worst girl. He takes off his shirt, chops wood. He likes a lot of girls. This girl was so emotional she had to leave. And she was super annoying, interrupting everybody's dates, even ones that she was not on, like a group date. But she left, and it was sad because her dad has a terminal illness. But the show is good, okay? This girl, the worst, okay? The one that reminds me of Chris Lilly's character in the Summer Heights show from Australia. It just came out, she was arrested in 2012 for shoplifting. She was convicted of a petty theft. She was on probation. She did have to pay back. It was a lot of makeup and stuff. And so we're kind of questioning how far back do these background checks go. Now, clearly she's there to be funny and to be weird. But I thought it was interesting that she stole a lot of makeup because I am shocked by watching this show of how little this girl puts on makeup. Like, they're filming, Matt's coming by to pick up the girl for the one-on-one. And it's like, have you not heard of any concealer? Was the last concealer you used from 2012, which you stole and ran out? I mean, and she does spray tans for a living, okay? She's not tan or glowy or anything. It's shocking. Now she looks a lot better, but she looks awful on the show. And a lot of the girls look awful. Like in the morning scenes, they just do not give a shit. No one's blowing out their hair. They're not trying. The only girl that was trying was this girl, and now she's gone. There's still a lot of pretty girls, but I'm just kind of shocked by, like, you're being filmed. Matt's going to come in a pair of skinny cropped pants and a turtleneck and a too short of a jacket. You don't put on some concealer. Okay. Our girl, JoJo Siwa, who I have predicted would one day make another woman very happy as her life partner, has shaken up the world because she did a TikTok where she was singing to Born This Way, I believe, with maybe some other queer or gay influencers. And so everyone thinks that that is her, sign to come out. I want to know, when is she going to come out and say, I'm sick of these fucking bows, okay? I don't want to wear this shit. I'm 19 years old. I'm still dressing like a 12-year-old. This is like worse than being Shirley Temple. Like, let me just be my happy, queer, bisexual, lesbian, whatever she is. So I hope, but then my son said, no, who she is the girl that loves bows. That girl may be gay or queer, but she still loves bows. So I feel more that I don't care about her sexuality because I always knew about it. I want to see her in some other outfits. Okay. Ben Affleck and this girl, Anna, who was in Knives Out with him, who has really done an incredible job in calling the paparazzi every time they went for a coffee, a walk, always wearing masks, always being COVID conscious. They have been dating. She's 32. He's 48, as you know. They broke up. The story is he has 3 kids. She doesn't want to live full-time in LA. She wants to, I guess, go back to New York. I don't know. I think she's 32, and I think this pandemic lasted way longer than she thought. And the movie roles aren't rolling in because the production stuff is still kind of stop, go. And he's never going to marry her or give her a baby. So she's like, yeah, let's wrap it up. Apparently, though, it's amicable. But this was really funny. I guess she had a cutout or something that people saw in previous Instagram posts. And they caught a guy that obviously works for Ben Affleck throwing it away in the trash. I mean, now that is a great paparazzi moment. You guys, we heard Kim and Kanye are getting divorced, then we heard they're going to counseling, but it looks like they're on the path of still getting divorced. It confirms it. She is wearing color. She made her Skims red for the holidays and for Valentine's Day. And you can see in her boring, bath where there's no color, nothing. And then she's just popping out in this color. And people like myself just saw it as a big wink of get ready. I'm going to be free soon. So that's nice. The Armie Hammer controversy of him, it's not even controversy. It's true. He's into cannibalism. Has he actually really eaten any parts of a body? We didn't know. But now, according to the Daily Mail, his ex-girlfriend, Paige Lorenza, who's a model. She's only 22. They dated from October to December of 2020. She said that, yes, in fact, he absolutely was looking for a doctor that would help remove her rib so that he could smoke it. Not barbecue it, smoke it. We have a smoker. Peter loves it. We do a turkey on it. It is amazing with ribs. It is a great way to do a rib. But this is so freaky. And the question is, if he was not a movie star, or maybe even if he was, Ted Bundy was hot too, right? Is this the steps to a freaking serial killer? This is pretty weird. And some internet sleuths found that this girl in previous photos with him was in photos just smiling, but they zoomed in and detected a lot of bruises. So it's just very... Oh, and he also etched the letter A or scarred the letter A into her body for Armie at one point. She's saying all this. Her friends are saying it. But during the October to December time, he met her mother. And I mean, I would be delighted, if my daughter, I have a daughter who's 21, if she told me she met Armie Hammer, I would have been like, oh my God, I love his work. Imagine now you're like, McKinsey, you almost were going to cut out a rib and have him barbecue it. God, get away. This show on Netflix, Bling Empire. All my Juicy Scoopers are talking about it. So I watched, I think, 4 episodes last night. It is shot like Selling Sunset. So it is definitely a more glamorous thing, but it's a glamorous reality show, but it's definitely in the vein of The Housewives. And it's all these super rich Asian Americans that some of them were born here, some of them live here now, live internationally, and they have more money. They're billionaires, okay? Not all of them, but a couple of them. Here's a couple of them. Now, this guy is kind of the star of the show. I think he was probably the actor. I want to get the backstory on how the show happened. His name's Kevin. He was adopted by American parents. He's a babe. He's a model, and he does not have a lot of money. and he makes friends with this guy. I forgot his name, but I was really distracted by the fact that this guy, who definitely seems that he might be gay. Again, I mean, I don't know, could just be Metro, but seems pretty. He doesn't talk about having a boyfriend or anything, so I'm not sure. But he has some really bad cheek fillers. And what is with cheek fillers? And some people accuse me of having them. I've never had cheek fillers. Look at my old photos. You know when someone has cheek fillers, not from the front. It's when like the camera comes from behind their head and it's just this thing like jetting out. And I wanted Mackenzie to watch it with me yesterday, my daughter who's visiting. And she just said after I pointed out the cheeks, it was hard for her to concentrate. So it's pretty fun. There's these other rich characters in it. And here's my thing, because there's this show. There's the other one at HBO about a Houston family who's also a wealthy Asian family. At the Hose or something, and people are really liking them. And I love that we're seeing different fun reality shows for the people that are kind of burnt on the Housewives. But they are like opening up their money. They're doing all the mistakes. If they're not doing everything on the up and up, they're going to be screwed. But they also could just be robbed. I mean, hopefully all their jewels of any significance are staying in a bank vault, because these people have millions of dollars of jewels that they talk, show, all their shoes. They have private Dior things going on. I thought it was kind of fun. There's one juicy story that involves this really pretty girl, Kelly, who was married to some really rich guy, jets, the whole thing. He went to prison for 10 years. She was kind of like the Erika Jayne. Like, I had no clue he was running a fraudulent business. I was shocked. I put up with a lot of infidelity, but I was doing it because I thought he was like this businessman who was providing for me. Didn't know he was a crook. She gets with this guy named Andrew, who's a white guy who is the Red Power Ranger, which I couldn't. Okay, I don't know how Power Rangers work, but aren't they like covered up? I mean, couldn't anybody be the Power Ranger? Like if you got sick, couldn't someone just put on the outfit and be you? I don't know. His life's ruined. He comes off awful in the show. He is the worst boyfriend ever. If you're watching it, start to watch it and just know that this guy is going to be so mad. He probably loved when this opportunity came up, thought this would absolutely help his career. He comes off like fucking like scary, like a scary guy that could come back and kill her. And they do therapy sessions. All of that is probably some of the juiciest television I've seen in a while. But I really like this woman, though, this Anna woman. She's half German, half Asian. She's really rich. She is the one I'm going to go after to get on Juicy Scoop. Mostly because I want to be her friend. I think we'd hit it off. She's older than she's kind of like, you know, the older character, kind of like not as old as Patricia in Southern Charm, but all the characters are like 30, 40 max, and then or even 20s, and then she's kind of like this woman in the Asian rich Beverly Hills community, but she doesn't really fit. But then she like drops the knowledge. It's very good. I'm going to get more into it. Watch it so that I can talk a lot about it like next week. I'm watching Real Housewives of Salt Lake. Still hate watching it. And the Jen Shah is the worst person ever. And I have a photo up here on my YouTube, which you just go to YouTube. You can watch all. Type in Heather McDonald. You can see all of this. Subscribe, please. But like her plastic surgery is just unfortunate. It's just all about like these ponytail things that people are doing. They just wear this high ponytail and it just makes them look evil with all the Botox too. And there's a photo of her from just, I don't know, maybe 10 years ago. And it just, I mean, 10 is kind of a lot of years, but she just looked so different. I don't know what it is. And she just gets drunk and screams at everybody and breaks glasses. And it gives me anxiety and it's not interesting at all. Speaking of plastic surgery, J-Lo, everybody is giving her some shit for saying that this was from December of this past year. Jennifer Lopez has never gotten Botox. I'm not that person. Well, that's kind of bitchy because I am that person and I have gotten Botox over the years and it's a pretty great invention. I think it's the best invention next to the iPhone for the last 25 years. And so I don't think that was very nice, but I definitely think she's gotten Botox. All you have to do is go look at some older movies that she was in, and she has the furrowed brow. She has wrinkles on her forehead that she doesn't have anymore. One thing that she did kind of keep, she didn't put the Botox here. So she'll still like have a little bit of a line between her brows, but all of it above the brows and around the eyes, she doesn't have. And she says it's because she's only used olive oil on her face, which now we can get in her JLo skin products. And I also think that's really interesting that like all these bigger stars like JLo, from the first time I met JLo on the Chelsea Handler show, I said, what is the secret to your skin? Is it La Mer, which is very expensive cream? And she goes, oh, what? Oh, yeah, I use La Mer. So she was using La Mer. There's interviews about it way back when. It wasn't just olive oil from her mother's kitchen. But regardless, I think it's because she has one glass of champagne a year and sleeps 10 hours. That will make you look amazing too. I mean, I've said it before. Look at Mitt Romney. He looks so young. He's a Mormon who didn't drink. Okay. But tell me if you try her products. I'm assuming they are probably great quality. And I'm going to go deep dive on Thursday into the whole makeup YouTube world because I have done some research on that, and that's a whole nother weird thing. And I think a lot of the bigger stars are like, why am I not making as much as Jeffree Star? All right, I'm JLo. I'm going to have some skin cream and some palettes soon. This is a crazy picture that was taken in a magazine of our governor, Gavin Newsom, and his first wife, Kimberly. And this is significant because Kimberly is the woman that has been dating Donald Trump Jr. for the last 4 years, or 3 or 4 years. And I see it pop up a lot where people are like, do people know this? And it's interesting because now she's super Republican, but she was for a long time. She was also worked at Fox News. I also had dinner with her once because we shared a gay best friend. And when I was on my book tour, he's like, you're going to love my friend Kimberly. And and I was with my sister Shannon. And my sister Shannon went to Santa Clara University with Gavin. So Shannon says to Kimberly, oh, Kimberly, I know your ex-husband from college. And she goes, oh, which one? And she's like, Gavin. Okay, so I just thought the fact that people always keep bringing this up and they're so shocked, I guess I'm not that shocked because it was just common knowledge of me. But it is. Is it weird? It's freaking weird. But that's the most political this show will ever get. Just juicy, hot-looking people that shock us if they were ever together. Erika Jayne is now renting a home worth about $1.5 million. Now, that is nothing compared to the house she was living in because this house for 1.5 is in LA. She did not buy it. She is renting it. And if I do my math right, I think the rent is maybe $10,000 a month, give or take a little. It's not a huge house. It looks like a cute, like kind of Spanish safe house, probably in like West Hollywood. And this is who I'm going to talk to now, you guys. In a little bit in the show coming up, I'm going to talk about this incredible article that was in Lawyer 360 that really breaks down everything Tom Girardi did. And I'm going to talk to a woman who contacted me that used to work for him. So juicy. But I'm going to give you a little treat right now about a podcast that all of you are talking about. And then we're going to hear this interview. But I do have dates set for 2021. All you have to do is go to heathermcdonald.net. Everything is there. The dates, the merch, the baby onesies that everyone's dying over. I'm a delight for your baby. Patreon, of course. Every Friday I have a new Patreon episode, different tiers with even more content. I'm doing more on Patreon than I ever have before. You just go to heathermcdonald.net. Everything you need, how to watch the show, everything is all there. So here we go with the rest of the show. So I am talking to Kimberly Archie, who you contacted me through Twitter DM because I had made some kind of tweet about one of the juiciest stories, which is the Tom Girardi, Erika Jayne current legal mess. And you wrote to me that you worked for him. We talked a little bit, and now I am so excited to get your side of the story for the Juicy Scoopers. Welcome to Juicy Scoop, Kimberly.
Well, thank you for having me.
So why don't you tell me kind of tell me the background of what you did for him, how you met him, and how you're involved in the main lawsuit that really kind of started exposing this, everything that's been going on with Tom Girardi. In the article you just sent me, by the way, it shows that there's been problematic stuff happening for like over 20 years, which I don't think the normal population is aware of.
Yeah, I mean, I would tell people, first of all, to definitely check out that Law 360 article. It's very detailed, going back 20 years, which is the first time I've seen a reporter really do a diligent job going back more than 10 years. So I think that if viewers want to know more about the lawsuits against him and the different cases, that article is a great reference for them. As far as how I met Tom, I'm a safety advocate in youth sports, and my daughter got injured in cheerleading 17 years ago. And I eventually started taking some legal classes to try to help more to further kids' rights in sports. And people started calling me the Erin Brockovich of sports safety in these legal classes. And so one day on a whim, I wrote to the Erin Brockovich lawyers and said, hey, like, I'm doing all this legal work on behalf of kids. And, you guys seem to understand sort of a outspoken, out of the ordinary female who maybe isn't an attorney, but has a grasp on a legal issue and, wants to make a difference. So I started working with them, meaning
So
Jim Vitito.
you actually wrote the law offices of Tom Girardi. And they followed up?
I wrote, my original email was to Masri and Vitito, which is the smaller law firm in the movie where Erin actually worked.
Got it.
And so I wrote to them because in my mind at the time, I mean, that's where Erin worked. That made the most sense. So it was through them that I met Tom. And it was a few years later, my friend Kathy Regomez unfortunately was the victim of PG&E's gas explosion in San Bruno in 2010. And Kathy and I have been childhood friends since we were 3 years old. So 48 years. She hates it when I tell people that because that dates us quite a bit. But I think we're pretty lucky to be friends for 48 years. So when her house was blown up and her son was badly burned, third degree burns, more than 50% of his body, and a lot of what wasn't burned had to be harvested to repair the other burns. So at one point he was like 90%, scarred from the fire. So it was my friendship with Kathy and what happened to them. She went on to pick Tom as their attorney for their family in the San Bruno gas explosion. And that's sort of where my relationship with Tom sort of grew, from knowing him through Jim Vitito and Masri and Vitito, the original law firm, to a direct relationship with him. And then I began to work for him on the NFL brain injury case. And that was a really high profile, important case. And it was related to the topic that I cared the most about. And so I thought it was a real opportunity of a lifetime to make a difference on such an important issue.
And what I thought was really interesting about this article, and that article that we talked about, that Law 360 article that you sent me yesterday, did that just come out, that article?
Yes, it came out yesterday.
Because I agree with you in that everything I've read, this is definitely the most thorough. And like I said, that there were complaints from the victims in Hinckley, who were the Erin Brockovich attorneys. And to make it again clear, what we saw in the movie is that firm then found Tom Girardi, who then together got the $333 million winnings for these people and for everybody. And then, of course, we know that attorneys take commission. But even in that article, they said that when the movie came out, there were the Hinckley victims from that town that would say, this movie is not representative of what happened. We don't feel like we, got what we were supposed to get. They were still complaining, but they were, again, so small, so small town, didn't have the means, that then throughout the last 25 years that people have complained about Tom Girardi and had tried to come after him. It appears, according to this article, that he could shut them up or settle behind doors or whatever, but people were not getting what they were entitled to be getting. Is that your understanding as well?
Well, I think at this point, a lot of the legal stuff is a huge mess, and we have more questions than we have answers. I think that the article certainly led us all to believe that it's not something that just happened yesterday, that there's been some sort of pattern. And as we see, more information from each one of those cases that we haven't seen, I think then we'll know exactly what happened and how he was able to pull this off for as long as he did.
And part of it was, taking money from other winnings, and what I understand, and telling those people either I haven't received the money yet, or it's going to go in partial payments to you, and then taking that money and paying someone else or using it for his own gain. The other thing that was interesting about the article is it said that he would do many settlements without court, which means that then that wasn't public, and he would even keep it secret from his clients. So the way I understand it is, let's say he got 10 million for the client, but maybe he told the client, we only got 2 million. Here's your portion. And those things, I guess we may never know, or maybe we will, but it'll take many years to discover it.
I think my biggest concern with all of this as a consumer advocate and someone who tries to fight for the little guy, the same thing I thought Tom was doing and teaching me. It's sort of ironic to be flipping the script on it. But to me, the biggest issue is, every time there was a problem with a particular case, discovery wasn't produced, meaning the trust accounts. And so currently, you don't have to tell the bar that you have been sanctioned for not providing discovery. So every time it appears that every time Tom was asked to produce certain records, he didn't do it and he was sanctioned. But the current business and profession codes allows for attorneys to be sanctioned on discovery matters without reporting it to the bar. So what the victims have expressed that they'd like to see change so that this doesn't happen again is that there is a bill introduced in Sacramento to change the business and profession code so that if a lawyer sanctioned on discovery that includes a client trust account or client funds, that's reported to the bar. I mean, we have to do better.
Yeah, I mean, and the one thing in that article in regards to your friend and her son is that she said when she was initially at the hospital in that long time of caring for her son, there were lots of other lawyers that tried to get her case and represent her. But it was Tom Girardi that came and, was just so caring and visited Joe, the victim, and throughout the whole experience. And then afterwards, he said, and this part blew me away, is that he, I guess, apparently, according to this article, said, hey, I've been working with some people that have been won lottery money and were taken by other investors. I don't want that to happen to Joe. So let me take this money that's come to you, $12 million, and I will put it in some really safe investments for you, or whatever, with high interest rate savings. And then when they tried to say, okay, where's the money? We want to see the money, is when they realized they were in deep shit. I mean, that to me, I think, is probably the worst thing in that article. And there was a lot of bad things in that article, but to me, that was the worst.
It's like a horrible Shakespearean tragedy, or, well, to me, you couldn't write a worse ending for all of this, in my opinion. I mean, he's supposed to be a knight in shining armor for the whole David and Goliath thing. I mean, it's unfortunate because not only have people been victimized, like my friend Kathy, and even myself, since he represented me for my son's wrongful death case at one time. um, it's just an unfortunate turn of events, because you take victims and you victimize them again. It's kind of like the worst thing you could possibly do is say, hey, I'm going to be here for you in your darkest moment. And then really you're the boogeyman instead of the knight in shining armor. Like I said, you really can't write a worse ending.
And in some of it, it just sounds like anybody that's ever like lent someone money and they think they're getting it back. And then you start to call them and then they stop and they give you a little bit and you want to believe it, but you have that sick feeling. You're like, let me not think that. There's no way. That is exactly what his clients experienced. They were like, okay, where's the money? He's like, oh, it's coming, it's coming, it's coming. Then the calls stopped. And then there were cases when they did try to sue him, and then he was so powerful, he would sue them for defamation and get it thrown out. And these people were like, or they would settle for a lot less and just be like, well, better take what I can get, and then he would go out and say, these people going after me are just greedy lawyers and greedy ex-clients. When in fact, now we know the truth, that they weren't like that, but they were, not at the level of him. And the amount that he is connected to Gavin Newsom and all these judges is really kind of frightening.
Yeah, I mean, Tom had a Rolodex that people could only dream about. I mean, I used to make jokes that, like, Tom could pick up the phone and call the governor. Like, we call him, borrow $20, or I knock on my neighbor's door and get a cup of sugar. I mean, those are normal for everyday people. That's the kind of favors that you ask for. It's an incredible thing to be able to be connected to the media, to judges, to other powerful attorneys, and even to retired judges that are doing arbitration and mediation. So I mean, I know that when I decided to have him represent me for my son's wrongful death, that I felt empowered to take on football. I mean, my son had CTE from youth football. You don't want to take on that type of industry and not have a lawyer that's powerful.
Right. Right. I mean, I can see, of course, you're going to go to him. And I met him and at Craig's one night and with Erika Jayne, and they were all having dinner there. And I said, oh, so nice to meet you. And he stood right up and just like Erika Jayne would say in the show, do you get it now? Do you get it? I got it. He had the sparkling blue eyes. He looked at you like you're the only person in the room. He was super charming. And, I have a friend whose parents knew him and his first wife and were social and, much older people, and had wonderful things to say. She attended the Christmas parties that they talk about where snow is brought in, it sounds like the Kardashians almost followed his lead. I mean, this sounds like a fancier party than they ever had. And they
when you have LeAnn Rimes come and sing you Christmas carols for your 300 closest friends, I mean, that's not your everyday Christmas party. And I mean, it's at the Jonathan Club. For a lot of people who aren't members, that's an experience in and of itself to, get to come there, much less go to, Tom's party. And then you never knew who you were going to sit next to.
Right. And, and then the fact that, did you know about this, this cruise that they invited all the judges to? There's some Mediterranean cruise. Were you involved? Do you remember that at all?
I wasn't around during that time. That was before my days. But I have read about it, and, being a consumer advocate and, looking at what companies do and what corporate America does, a cruise with some folks that everybody knows isn't really unusual. It's kind of like when President, Peavy of the California Public Utilities Commission is schmoozing with PG&E folks up in Napa Valley. I mean, I see that stuff every day. I'm not saying it's right, but it doesn't necessarily look like a huge red flag to me because, that's business, unfortunately. Right. And I often say, you can't go into a shark fight with a guppy. You got to bring a shark. And so Tom was a shark. I thought he was a good guy shark. And obviously that wasn't true, but a lot of people thought he was a good guy. I think most of us wish we would have, or I know I can only speak for myself. I wish I would have understood what was going on sooner. But hindsight's always 20/20.
And what did you think of the story that the LA Times talked about when they said before Housewives started, he did have some party with a bunch of judges and legal people, and he played Erika Jayne's music video and how weird that was. Did you hear about that when that happened?
I did hear about that, but you know what? When Tom would talk about Erika, he would light up the room. Like I fully believed he was madly in love with her. Mm-hmm. He would be so excited to talk about what she was doing, and he seemed so proud of all of her accomplishments, her book, it making the New York Times bestseller list. When she got Roxy on Broadway, I mean, he loves Broadway. Loves. I mean, that's something that we would chat about is music and Broadway. And so I knew he would be pretty excited about something like that. And it's also, I mean, let's be honest, of all the stuff she's done, that's the most legitimate thing.
And do you think that was sort of a shocking moment in the Real Housewives of Beverly Hills reunion when she revealed to Andy that unfortunately, he did not see her in it because she planned for him to come closing night. And of course, it closed early because of COVID. And some people looking back see that as a sign as maybe they weren't as tight or they weren't as close. Or, I mean, I think now we know that he had extramarital affairs. And maybe they just had an understanding. And I can see as a performer that I would have said, to certain people in my life, come at the end when I really have my shit down and I'm going to feel like I'm going to kill it. Let me get the bumps out of the road. And sometimes that person is your husband where you're like, I don't want the most critical person to be there the first night or whatever. Or want him to be the most proud at the end.
Weren't they filming for opening night and the cast came?
Oh yes, maybe you're right. So then, yeah.
So that's why I would think he wouldn't have went. And to me, my daughter did theater and was a theater major in college. I mean, opening night and closing night are the two biggest nights. Right. So if you wouldn't go to opening, you would definitely go to closing to see their final performance because that is a big deal to see it. So it's not, to me, that big of a red flag. I mean,
well, it's kind of interesting because you said he was proud about the book, but that was another moment where she said the year before on that reunion, she said, no, he never read the book.
Well, he and I talked about the book at one of our, lunches that we had at the Jonathan Club. I mean, so
did it appear like he had, huh?
Well, he'd at least heard enough stories about it or heard her talk about what she had wrote about or what she put in it. I certainly wouldn't say that I know he read it or not, but he knew enough to talk about some of the different stuff. And of course, people will screenshot or tweet, pull tweets and send them to me. So I knew a lot of the little bits and pieces of the book because people would tell you about it. What is everyone talking about? And they'd want to tell you as if we didn't either already know because we're around them in real life or you've already heard about it. But it's different when it's out there in a public forum like that. It, definitely people become fans or not so much fans and want to talk about it.
Well, as someone who read the book, I felt that there was really no juice about their marriage, their life. There was never a juicy story about oh, I went to this dinner with these other lawyers' wives and they were rude to me, or there was nothing. So I felt she was being very protective of whatever their arrangement was. And so I thought it was like the least juiciest book ever. Like, who cares that she was a stripper? I don't think that was like a shock. I mean, I wanted to hear about what it was like to be a young woman who was wife number 3, and you're going to dinner, and I can see that now that I'm the wife that's, of a certain age. We have a couple people who have like younger wives and girlfriends, and sometimes I kind of like it because I'm like, oh, now we both will look like, trophy wives at this dinner, or will someone think I'm this girl's mother? I don't know, but I don't mind it. But I could see in that kind of educated Pasadena world that these women probably weren't that welcoming and probably weren't dying to have dinner with Erika when they're 50 and she's 27. What was your opinion on that?
Well, I think like in the legal world, it's a very conservative place. I mean, they still are expecting women to wear navy blue suits with pantyhose and closed-toed shoes, for crying out loud. So, Erika is way out of the box in the legal world. And it's also very, male driven area. And so to have someone who is very comfortable with their sexuality and has this sort of extra sexy alter ego, I'm sure it was a bit much for a lot of people. I mean, I'm all for doing your thing and being who you are. And I mean, we all want an alter ego. I mean, I certainly can't point any fingers about that. Maybe just the way that she did it. I think too, one of the things that maybe didn't set so well in the world she was trying to navigate through is, she created a persona based on money, when your money, even if it wasn't stolen, came from people like my son's wrongful death case, or a burn victim, or somebody's family member who died of cancer, or was in a train crash, or died in a bus rollover that shouldn't have happened. You probably could have a little more etiquette and class about how to, let people perceive how you've enjoyed the wealth that, has come from these terrible tragedies. There's amount of decorum that she could have had. Nobody's saying people can't make a ton of money and have wealth. I mean, we live in a capitalist society, for crying out loud. I mean, that's a whole nother argument if we want to go there, but she could have been a little more tasteful about her presentation of having this lifestyle. I mean, everybody on Housewives has money. That was your only gig, was to be wrapped in money. What else do you got?
Right.
Maybe and that's why people got tired of her.
And I think, it's interesting because besides the people that are going after him, in your friend's case for $11 million, and, which is rightfully owed to them, there's all these other little lawsuits of, court reporters that weren't paid, hardworking people that are owed, $50,000 or whatever. And so they've got to join the long line of people. But who's not in that line? The glam squad, the makeup place, Chanel store. They all got paid. They all got paid.
Well, and that's what's interesting too. Her perspective on the victims is really interesting because she's not saying much. She's doing a few things like posting lots of photos, and I understand some of them are probably required by her contracts for different promotional stuff she's doing for companies. But still, to taunt people and say we're all gullible, really the victims are gullible? Gullible to what? I mean, if she isn't a part of what some people called a Ponzi scheme, like the attorney in the Law 360 case said, how come she's not coming to the U.S. trustee for the bankruptcy case and saying, hey, I'll help you find the assets. I will help you guys get whatever to pay these people. I didn't know what was going on. I will cooperate fully. Instead, you're posting selfies and saying we're gullible. No, you're an idiot is what you are. And you have zero class. It's a perfect example of money can't buy class.
Money can't buy a class. Countess Luann. Countess Luann, I mean.
It's hard not to think look at her song. She obviously gives no fucks.
Yeah, zero fucks.
That's really kind of crazy.
My pussy is a python. Um, and
It's
one of the posts she just did for wearing lingerie, which is from Rihanna's lingerie company, which I can't understand. That's a post. But at this point in your career, this going on, you could say, I don't want to do the post, or I'm backing out. But she wants that $5,000 check to do some posts of her in lingerie. And then the thing that she wrote was, you buffoons want to eat my pussy. Fenty lingerie. I'm like, ew. What? I mean, I know she's going to do an OnlyFans in about a minute, but I just am just kind of like, who is giving her this advice? Because if
right.
I was Lisa Rinna, who seems like the housewives have her back, they like everything, maybe that's her social media people. But if I was her friend, I would say, look, the only way you're going to get out of this, and you're still not going to get out of it, is to say, from the moment I met Tom Girardi, he said, you can spend whatever you want, carte blanche. Once I got the housewives, I did spend more. He said it was fine. I never asked. It wasn't my department. I'm totally horrified. I mean, I don't know why she's not doing that, but maybe she has a bigger plan. And then when she posted the photos from his affair with the judge, I think that came from a place of, okay, I'm all on your side. I was a victim too. He cheated on me with this woman, and we don't even know what year that was from. But how were you aware that there were extramarital affairs while they were happening?
I didn't know anything about the judge and the improper relationship. I didn't know anything about that as far as them dating while he was married to Erika. I think most people sort of assume folks at that level of success and power and money, there are some, agreements among people, and you don't necessarily ask like, hey, do you guys have an agreement that you do whatever you want? You don't really ask that kind of stuff, even though you're sitting right next to them. I mean, you're not going to ask those sorts of things per se. And you might even see things that you're like, oh, this is interesting. But again, it's somewhat a part of that sort of level of success in the world. People don't leave marriages as easily when there's that kind of money involved. That's the bottom line.
I do think it's kind of interesting that he didn't cheat on, with like a secretary or another waitress. He actually cheated with a woman who's, a judge, which takes obviously a lot of education, and I almost think, God, was that more of a kick in the face for Erika Jayne, since she built a whole new face. She doesn't even look recognizable from when she married him, and she was pretty back then, but she looks like a different person.
I think she was prettier before she did all the stuff. I mean, I realize, and it's tough to age in LA. I mean, I live here too. It's not easy to be over 50 years old here. In LA years, that's like 150. I mean, so I get it. It's not kind. But still, and hey, if you want to do cosmetic surgery, it's none of my business. But if you're living a crazy lifestyle and you want to act like you have no idea where it came from, it's just going to be tough to do that, because you're filing joint taxes. You're being given millions of dollars from, your husband's company into your company. It'd be one thing if it was 20 grand. Nobody would go wonder where their husband got 20 grand, but 20 million, you didn't blink an eye or anything. You just thought for sure it was no problem, and it was none of your business where it came from. If it came under a rock, cool. You just don't ask me any questions. I won't tell you any lies.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know what Erika knew. Only Erika can really speak for that. But I definitely think that it's hard to believe that she's a good person and that she gives a shit, because she hasn't shown us that she cared. If I were in her shoes and I know Tom, I know the scenario firsthand, like, as soon as you knew, you should have just came out blazing, get your PR people lined up, line up your interviews, set up your narrative, and come out and tell people what happened. Be honest and say, this is what I know, this is what I didn't know, and I didn't pull the strings or do it. And when I found out, I lost my cookies. I mean, you know, we all heard she flipped out when she sent all those stuff about the judge, you know, and put it on Twitter. And that's kind of obvious that you're having a bitch fit when you're screenshotting a sitting judge's phone number. I mean, come on.
But obviously
there's a judge in
that was obviously from a few years ago. So it was like she was probably pissed a few years ago and then sat on it for a rainy day.
She was mad because they ran out of money.
I mean,
come on. What else is she mad about? She wasn't mad about the affair before. Why didn't she use it to try to, for bad, you know, say, oh, you don't want bad publicity, you know, give me what I want and I'll go on my merry way. She wasn't mad about it at the time enough to leave. It's hard to pull that card out now as a victim card. Instead, it's just a diversion tactic at this point, or that's what it appears to look like to everyone else. I mean, why didn't you say anything sooner? And again, I mean, she has her own story to tell and she hasn't said anything. I mean, a picture say 1,000 words. All she said is throwing up on us that she's super hot and, you know, she'll load up on a new dude soon. She's the new Anna Nicole Smith. I mean, I don't know. I mean, how ridiculous.
So what did you think of the latest claim that his brother is, I guess, trying to be his conservator, saying that he does not know what's going on. He does not understand the bankruptcy. He definitely is suffering from, you know, a mental incapacity. But the fact that we now know from this article that he was pulling this shady shit, this illegal, this absolutely stealing money from his clients, you know, all the way back since 1996. Does this even help him in any way? And what is your thoughts on that?
Well, I don't understand how it can help him. And I think, you know, I mean, let's just look at what we do know. He's 81 years old, so he's kind of up there. Wouldn't be surprising to have short-term memory problems at this point, not obviously 20 years ago, like the Law 360 article describes. So those are two different sort of discussions about his mindset or his frame of mind, you know, during all this. But currently today, we know his age. We know he was in a car wreck a few years ago and, you know, lost consciousness after that. So could have issues from, you know, that car wreck. But we haven't seen an expert do any type of cognitive exam. I would think if it were my brother, who is a retired Navy commander, you know, and runs a big company, if he were having issues and I had to step in, I would get a cognitive exam and then go to the judge with my little declaration and say, look, here's a doctor who's an expert in this. Don't take my word for it, Mr. Judge. Why don't you listen to someone who actually is qualified to make a determination on this? And you know, here's his opinion or her opinion. And I'm here as the sibling, you know, to try to step in because they need my assistance. So I think that's why people are saying, what's going on? I think that's, again, we have more questions than we have answers. Every time something happens, it just raises a bunch of new questions. I mean, where's the expert to say this? He's a dentist, not a neurologist. So, you know, let's have.
You mean his brother is a dentist?
Right.
Oh, I thought the brother was an attorney as well.
There was another brother. So this is a different brother, Robert. So you're thinking of John, who goes by the name Jack, who is an attorney. And then Robert is a dentist. And he's the one that's trying to step in to help Tom.
And did you ever have any dealings with his adult children?
I only met Tom's daughter, who was married to David Lira. I had never met any of the other kids. I mean, most of my interactions with Tom, I mean, Tom was, you know, my attorney for my son's case. I worked for him. He was a mentor to me. I spent an enormous amount of time learning the legal profession from him, and nobody understood a jury or people like Tom did. And now we're seeing kind of the ugly evidence of that he was really good at reading people, and particularly in making people feel good. I used to sit back in awe at how he could make people feel good about themselves. And, everyone needs that, frankly. And they can say they don't want their ego stroked, but trust me, there's few people that don't enjoy a good ego stroke. And Tom knew how to do that. And we all need to feel good about ourselves. And so he had a way of being able to do that with referring attorneys, with judges, with the media, with obviously lenders, and with clients, experts, and a jury. I mean, if a guy can take that many cases to trial and be successful, he's obviously a persuasive person.
And don't you think it's interesting that according to this article, which was all pulled from legal filings, how many complaints and how many lawsuits and everything Tom had, that as recent as 2019, Governor Gavin Newsom made him the head of this advisory committee that vets, candidates for state judgeships. I mean, don't you think more research should have been done, or maybe there should have been some question of maybe this isn't the best person for this job?
I mean, again, I think we can say hindsight's 2020. I mean, looking back, it's glaringly obvious. But I think, again, the system really isn't set up for this to seem obvious. And if you're doing hundreds of cases with all of these, clients, it's not for an outsider to think like, oh, there's been 5 or 6 issues. Well, if you've done 1,000 cases, think about that as a ratio of people who aren't happy. It's not until decades later that somebody looks back and compiles all this stuff and goes, hey, wait a minute. You also have the current judgment, against him, where, in the past, he's been able to settle things without people knowing about it. And so now you have it out in the open. And that's what's different this time. And, has been sort of a game changer and unraveled, robbing Peter to pay Paul.
And what did you think? Because did you ever have a conversation with Tom Girardi about how did you find out that he in fact was going to be on The Housewives with his wife, and what were your thoughts?
So when I found out about them doing Housewives, I was floored. And I mean floored. Like I didn't believe it, because we had talked about a client doing a reality show after they had settled a case, and it was a very kind of benign show. It was going to be a fishing show or whatever. So it wasn't necessarily that juicy of a show. And so he was adamant, like, no reality TV. That's not, what's good for them. They need to, keep a quieter life. So I initially was like, oh, wow, that's really wild that he would do that. So the next time I saw him, I asked him, I go, hey, like, I'm a little bit blown away that Erika's doing Housewives. I mean, that's going to be intense spotlight. And he literally just said, this is for Erika and this is for her career. And, I'm going to do it. That was it. It's just like, okay, wow.
Just a couple of weeks ago, I met a woman who revealed that she was already set to do Housewives. She'd gone through the interview. She had a lot of money, a husband that had a lot of money, interesting woman. And they said, you got it. Like, you got the job. And she was kind of like nervous, but sort of excited about it. And then within like days after they said you got it, they call back and said, I'm sorry, we got somebody else that the network wants. So I think that choosing Erika Jayne, I think happened pretty quickly. So I think it might have happened really quickly, and they didn't really have the time to go through a lot of interviews or really think about it. I mean, I think that once they found her, they're like, the woman that they ended up not choosing, who I've met, is way too normal for Housewives. I mean, they're wealthy, but like the husband's her age. They're totally normal. Their kids are in college. She's very educated, classy. So the wealth would have been fun to watch, but it's a lot more exciting when you see this freak show. Like, I mean, come on, like, and then playing into it, she chose to play into it and use all of her own money. I mean, the first year of Housewives, she made, the average is $60,000 for the first season of Housewives. And she was spending $40,000 a month on glam. That doesn't count when she treated the girls on the plane and all of this to show this image when really no money's coming in. You're telling me a couple downloads on iTunes and the pussy glitter is paying $20 million a year. I mean, it's not. And now she probably makes a decent income off Housewives, but I don't think she makes $1 million a year from Bravo. I think she's probably at like 500, 600,000 a year.
What are you going to do? Add up the $9.99 shoe dazzle or whatever too? Like that's not really adding up. I mean, the makeup line's at least well known, but you're still not making, it's not your makeup line. It's somebody else's. You're just getting a little tiny kickback. Thanks for your name.
Right.
Kind of thing. So, it'd be hard pressed to believe that she's turned any kind of profit ever. I'm quite certain she's far in the hole. And when you look at the airplane, issue, my brother is a pilot and, has flown Gulfstreams, which is one of the planes that they have. And they manage those type of planes for people like Tom. It's very expensive to own a plane. To buy one is cheap, actually. So, whatever one you get, that's nothing compared to the cost to maintain it, to put gas in that thing, and to keep a crew on standby that's legit lifestyles of the rich and famous. When you've got jets on standby with the crew that's got to drop whatever they're doing and take you wherever you want to go. I mean, and that's going to bleed anyone dry unless you've got serious dough coming in.
Yeah. I mean, I just watched an old episode, which was probably from 3 or 4 years ago. And she took the glam squad for 3 or 4 guys, just them, took to Atlanta, 4-hour flight. And they stayed for a couple days and filmed her visiting her mother. And I was like, wow, kind of interesting. And it was sort of interesting now when they show these old episodes, you're just like, oh my, now you're adding it up and really thinking where this money came from. And it's pretty gross.
It is. I mean, and again, I'm all for people, earning whatever they want and enjoying the money that they've earned and having whatever lifestyle that they choose to have. But I think that there is some amount of decorum that she could have had when it came to the money, considering where it came from. And now that they have allegedly stolen it, it just makes it even more egregious. And I think as time goes on, it just seems like the story gets worse. It kind of reminds me of something else that ended today, where every time you think, oh my God, this can't get worse, you say to yourself, why did I say that out loud? Because I just logged on to Twitter and it did get worse. So let's stop saying that. That's how I feel about this, especially Erika. She's a complete train wreck right now. And you got to wonder, was she emotionally abused at all or something? Why is she acting so bizarre? Because to act like you have absolutely no feelings for the victims, I can't imagine. I'd love to put her in a room with, some of the folks who've been, jilted by them. How would she look them in the eye? What would Erika say to any of these people? Well, I'd like to know that. I mean,
she'd say,
and why hasn't she? Go ahead.
She'd say, well, I'm sorry, but it's expensive to be me. I don't know. And it's weird because, I kind of feel for the son too in this scandal, because he's an LAPD officer, which is, very noble profession. And I mean, did you ever, what was the relationship like? Did you ever catch any relationship between Mr. Girardi and his stepson? What that situation was like?
No, I know that he lived at the house. I know that there was nothing that stood out or ever was really told to me as being problematic. I know he was proud that he was a cop, that he liked that. And like I said, anything about Erika, including your son, I mean, it was nothing but like smiles, and his like you said, his little blue eyes would light up, and he would just talk about it like it was the best thing since sliced bread. I mean, I
Yeah.
believed it, and I'm not easy to snow. That's what's kind of, I don't, I mean, I stood up against all the stuff that's happened, so I don't feel like a victim, from what he's done, because I know that at some point, there's going to be justice, and, everything that he said he stood for is now going to be the same spirit of what will bring him to justice, and whatever Erika's role is in it. I mean,
Do you think
this is serious enough that that's going to be found out one way or the other, what she knew or didn't know, or what she's doing and what she didn't do. And if anyone wants to give her any advice, if she hears this, contact the U.S. Trustee's office and cooperate with them to find the assets and act like you actually care. That's not going to harm her. That's actually a smart thing she could do to show that she is not in on any of it. She's not claiming to be incapacitated. So do the right thing. It's never the wrong time to do the right thing. Erika Jayne, Erika Girardi, Erika, whatever. I mean, it's always the right time, to do the right thing.
And do you think that this could end in prison time for either one of them?
I mean, I think we're completely speculating at this point, as far as because the criminal standard is so high. I mean, shoot, OJ didn't,
Well, he did
hold it,
eventually. He did eventually
his
for another crime, but yeah.
Right. But I mean, like in the civil case with OJ, he lost. In the criminal case, he won. And so I'm just saying the standard between criminal and civil are very different. And so, I mean, I think that's only time will tell. I think why people are speculating about it is oftentimes people fall this type of stuff because of tax issues. And when you say bring up tax issues, they were married. They, I'm sure, filed joint taxes. So that could be problematic for her. But again, it's never bad to cooperate with any federal agencies that are being brought in, because it's a crisis. I mean, and it's never wrong to tell people that you have compassion, for anything that was done that was wrong.
So before we go, so tell us, how is your friend's son doing? How recovering, his quality of life, and where do they go from here in trying to recoup what is owed to them?
Well, I think for them, this has been a 10-year horrific ordeal, starting with the gas explosion and Joe losing his girlfriend and the love of his life and all of that. I mean, frankly, they're doing terrific considering what we're going through and that it's a pandemic. I mean, they're troopers. I'm very proud of them for standing up and doing what was really hard to do, frankly, being who Tom was and the situation that it was in. So they're doing great. Joe is, riding a bike and, running and trying to play basketball and being active and trying to live a full life the best that he can. He has a really positive and great attitude and does a lot to help, the unhoused and people in need. He's the friend that you can go to and tell him your problems. I mean, that's the kind of person he is. That's why it's so unbelievable for this to happen to them, when after everything they've been through, they're just still so positive and trying to do the best that they can. And, try not to be offended every time they log on the internet and see the crap about Erika, or, see clips from the show and think like, wow, like, was that, where'd that money come from?
Yes. Yeah. I didn't even think about them I did not even think about the victims watching the show and knowing this for years when the public didn't. So I'm glad it's been exposed.
Yeah. Well, I think we'll continue to hear about this topic, as, more information and stuff comes out. But I hope people realize, that a lot of people worked really hard to bring this issue to light so it wouldn't keep continuing to happen. And so even the people who came before the Gomez's now would have a chance to be heard for the first time in many years. And you saw in that Law 360 article that one of the ladies said, "Oh, we wish we would have never even sued. It's been such a nightmare." And that's been more, she's from, I think, 20 years ago. Could you imagine for 20 years feeling like you're talking to yourself, or you're like the canary in the coal mine? I mean, who's listening to you? So at least now at this point, as we try to go forward and figure out what exactly happened and who knew what and when and all of that, at least the victims now have a voice and, got to share that without feeling like they're just crazy and that no one's going to believe them.
Well, thank you so much. I'm so glad you reached out to me. I really enjoyed talking to you. And can people follow you on Twitter, or what's your form of social media?
So I'm on Twitter at Kimberly Archie, and I'm on Instagram as Cheer Safety. And so, yeah, people can follow me on the internet, and probably Twitter is a little more spicy than Instagram's just, my kids and flowers and stuff like that. But Twitter, we actually get into real conversations.
Okay, well, great. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate it.